What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the show. And I'm joined on the other line by Rebecca Latini. So, Becca, welcome to the show.
Hi guys, thank you for having me. I'm
Of
so
course,
happy to be here.
you and I were just saying off air, it's been a long time coming for me to basically get you on just because I told you, I was like, Bo had you on and for a whole different type of episode. And, I don't know. I've always like whether people agree or don't agree with, perspectives of what people view. And that's just what the world we live in. I always just appreciate the way you articulate things and your
Yeah, of
perspective and you know just so appreciate you taking the time tonight. And the
course.
good news is, ladies and gentlemen, we're not going to talk about what day we should be having our rifle day opener, all that fun stuff, but we will be talking about Becca's favorite place where she will be going here, I'm sure, this week because rifle season here opens up in PA. So we're going to talk about some camp and tradition and all that good stuff. But before we do, I got to congratulate you on an awesome Ohio buck. So congrats on
Thank
that.
you. This is my first archery kill solo. It is kind of crazy. My dad we lease 80 acres in Coshocton, and then I also have a friend who has land in Licking County. So, I mean, with the drought and everything, my luck was really bad in Coshocton. And I don't know, I was like, listen, I'm staying close to the cabin. I'm going to hunt out of the one ladder stand on the property. So he took me down the side by side at 3 o'clock. We got in late. If you know anything about me and my dad, that is our fashion. I mean, we're ass backwards and we're all over the place. So I'm climbing up there like prime opportunity. And I heard something behind me. So, you're like slowly looking behind me. And all of a sudden I heard something right next to me. It must have crept right in. I looked, beautiful 8 point broadside. I was like, if he does not move, this is a sign. I'm
Yeah.
taking it. I'm punching my tag, and I'm going to be grateful for what God gives me. So I shot him at 30 yards, watched him drop after 20. The broadheads I use are awesome. If you like veteran owned companies, swap broadheads. I swear by them. But it was a wonderful, wonderful season. And congratulations to you on a
Oh yeah.
beautiful buck, because I was just telling you days beforehand, I'm like, man, I can't catch a break out here.
No, that's how it's exactly how it goes. Like one of my good friends, Jared from Tethered, who I consider one of like the best hunters, and it's just funny just because last year it just seemed like every time either I texted him with success, he was like, "Yep, me too," or I'm out hunting, and he's like, "Look what I had the opportunity to do tonight or today or whatever it be."
Yep.
And this year, I didn't get out much here in the state of PA, but I did in Ohio, obviously, like you just mentioned. And he's like, man, I can't time it right and can't get in it. And yesterday he sent me a text message and he had a beautiful West Virginia rifle buck and
Oh,
his first one on public land in
that's
his home state
awesome.
of West Virginia. So that was cool to
Don't sleep
see.
on West Virginia. They have some they have toads out there. I'm not gonna
Yeah.
lie. They have good bucks. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's awesome. I'm happy for him too. Like I said, it's been a good, abundant year for everybody. So I'm really happy.
Yeah, no doubt. So that like you said though, you were like, oh, it's been tough for me. I'm like, stay at it, stay
I
after it,
know.
you
I
keep
was
after
like,
it.
listen, man, we need a censor button for me because it's not looking good. Like I'm getting frustrated.
Yeah, no doubt. So here's what I want to ask you though, Becca. So obviously you have the camp, and I don't know. It's so funny because I think I get that wonderful jealous, not like in a bad jealous, but like that happy jealous of like, man, that just looks so beautiful up there. Just the country. Sometimes like in the summer, you're sending pictures, like posting pictures
Yeah.
of velvet elks and just all just the river and just all beautiful types of photos and just it looks awesome. So when we talk about camp growing up, what were some of the earliest things that you remember about camp growing up?
So when I was a little girl, I didn't start actually attending like male hunting seasons until I was probably like, you had to be old enough to hold your own and have a little bit of thicker skin. So I was probably like 15 when I started going for hunting season, but earliest on as a little girl, I remember we had a very small little TV with a VHS player. I'm shocked we even had that because I don't even think we had running water at the time, but God only knows why my dad had a tiny TV. And we would watch like Little Giants and on VHS and stuff like that. But I just remember we always were outside. We were always doing stuff outside. My dad was really good at showing us from an early age to have an appreciation for the outdoors. We were on four wheelers. I mean, I was like a tomboy, but at the same time, I like loved to bring my Barbies up and do like everything, like wear pink, and he was My dad's just the best. My mom was really great too, because she was just like, you can go up, take, like, I think she wanted to test my dad and be like, let's see how you can do with, little kids for the weekend. Like, but I loved it. I just remember being up there, seeing the elk. My dad was really good. Like, for 4th of July weekends, we'd go see fireworks and stuff. But just going to Cinnamahoning State Park isn't far. And I think it's really overlooked. Not a lot of people know about it. So I usually I'm not going to gatekeep something that beautiful. I'm going to tell everybody, check it out, especially if you like to fly fish, but doing a lot of fishing, being outside. I mean, we would be running around so hard that by the time we'd come back, we didn't care that there was nothing to do because we'd pass out and be
Yeah.
asleep. So it is such a special place. There's so much character too. I always say if those walls could talk, it would probably need a therapist, but it's a great place. It is.
That's wonderful to hear, and I think, like you're saying, just the different thing, like being young and bringing up the Barbies and all that type of stuff. Like I think about my daughter, where she
Yeah,
loves doing like shooting her bow, coming into a blind with me a couple of years ago, and doing all that stuff, but also being the girly girl of makeup and just
I love
doing all
that.
that type of stuff. And
She's a girl after my heart because
yeah,
I can clean up when I need to, but most of the time I'd rather be in Crocs drinking a Bush Light. Like that's totally me.
that's good to know. And like, so when you think about that, like you said, obviously your dad, is there anybody else that influenced like those traditions most for you?
Yes. My brother Fred. So he's 10 years older than me. Him and his whole crew of friends, they were like, I inherited them as brothers. Best guys ever. I love them and their wives. Realistically, like I still see them every rifle season. I see them all the seasons. They are the best. But my brother is, I always laugh because he's such a rough, tough, mean. I would never mess with him. Biggest heart though, honestly, like when I started having an interest in the outdoors, he was so receptive and so willing to like he was with me when I got my first turkey. He called the bird in and it was like just the best feelings between my dad and my brother, two of like the roughest people you could put a little girl with. I turned out okay, I think, but he played a huge influence in how I am as a hunter and how I can, observe sign in the woods. And I learned a lot through him. Unfortunately, my grandfather passed away in 94. I was born in 96. And then my great grandfather passed away in 92. So I always like to say a little piece of them lives within me because my dad is like reincarnated. I mean, from what I've heard, spitting image, everything they do. So I always say it's kind of passed down to me too. So
Nice. I like that. So there was actually, I did a podcast not too long ago, and one of the question was like, if you could hunt with someone from the past, like who would it be? And my dad always tells this story of his uncle Billy. Again, I never had the opportunity to meet him. I think my sister was very young when he was still alive, potentially, and just like the stories my mom and my dad just say. And I'm like, I never like once said it, but like I'm like, I feel like I'm a lot like Uncle Billy. Like you
I
said, like
love it.
there's just certain things where I'm like, yeah, that sounds like me a little bit. You know what I
Yes.
mean?
You
Yeah,
got a
but no,
piece of Uncle Billy in you. Yes,
yep,
that's right.
exactly. So when you talk about obviously having your brother, having your dad, and
Hmm.
who else would come up for that atmosphere? Like obviously you have the friends
Yeah.
and the family, all that type of stuff. Who else brought in the dynamic to shape your experiences with camp?
So my dad's best friend, Daryl O'Baker, and his friend Gary, they came up. I love to hear the stories. He used to hunt upstate New York and places like that. He really was great at just being so detailed. And last year when I got my deer, he was like, I'm so happy. Like you stuck everything through. It's just been years of mentoring with them and learning with them. And I'll tell you one thing that I will tell anybody. Sorry, I hope you can't hear the dogs barking. Basically, you have to be tough to endure deer camp, whether you're a girl, boy. I had no mercy on me. If I missed, your shirt tail's getting cut, anything like that. I do remember it was a couple rifle seasons ago. I had a shot at a buck. I was hunting from a ground blind with my dad, which probably wasn't the best idea, but when you're just like, getting out there, we were hunting into like it was called McDonald Draft. So if you're up in Benazet, you know where it's at. We were hunting McDonald Draft, and I remember I missed, and thankfully I didn't wound anything, but it still shakes you up so badly. I went back to camp, and I'm holding it in because they're all like looking at you, and I'm like I couldn't even like I just had tears, and they're like, "Come on, you don't do that up here." So now I feel like they've turned me a little too rough because I'm like walking in like.
Yep.
You're not allowed to cry. Don't be a sissy. Like, hold it in, take it to the chin, but in a good way where they're like, hey, it happens to everybody. You know, you're going to be okay. You're going to power through this. But I would say Uncle Daryl, Gary, Justin, and Johnny. If any of the boys are watching, Jay and John, they all know Grant, everybody. I'm really grateful that they were around with me growing up. It's kind of weird because I don't have any other girls to really shout out, and everyone's probably like, who are all these guys? My dad, I was like like your daughter, I was just like his other half. So he would be like, if my daughter's coming, if you don't like it, I don't give a shit,
Tough. Yep. Yep.
you're in or
Exactly.
out. So they all kind of absorbed me as a little sister and really, took me in. So anything that traditional that we did at camp, I was like right there, like the little blonde pipsqueak, like right there, like wanting to do it too.
Yeah, I like that.
I'm
So
like,
what I like that. What customs did you guys do maybe year after year or anything change over time basically for you guys?
I definitely was the big change coming up there, but we did. What's really beautiful, but kind of bittersweet, is a lot of the boys grew up coming to our camp and they loved it so much that they actually purchased their own. So, as much as I'm so happy that they did that, it's kind of sad because it's like they're starting their own new traditions, but I still miss having them,
Yeah.
a part of ours. They are always and they always will be, but it's like that's why I say it's so bittersweet because that's what all we want is for people to experience camp so that way they can carry on the traditions of a hunting camp. But once you lose those people and they start their own, it is kind of sad. So those were like adjustments that had to be made. Trout season though, they all come up still. And that's probably, it's going to sound crazy because I love rifle season, but ever since things have changed, I've loved opening weekend of trout. Even though you can't ever get a damn line wet because of the rain, everything's blown out. It is one of my favorite weekends ever. I love it so much.
No, that sounds awesome. And it's beginning how it's starting to feel for me like with turkey season. Like I grew up love chasing turkey with my dad and
Yeah.
I had not as many opportunities with it just because of baseball and especially playing it as a young kid and all that type of stuff. And then as I got older as an adult, the last couple of years I was coaching. So my springtime would be like opening day, another weekend or something along those lines. And then I would just be too much. I would have games on Saturdays and all that type of stuff. So it kind of sucked. And lately though, like the last couple of years, like since I would say the last 4, I really got that bug. And like, I just look forward to turkey camp now. I'm just
Yes.
like, let's go out and just something about it. Like you said, I bleed, whitetail, no doubt about it, but there's just
Yes.
something about a spring day, dark, sitting back up
Yeah.
against a tree, and you just hear that first one hammer down, and I'm just like, oh,
I
here we
always say
go.
when the crows start going and you hear
Yep,
them gobbling
yep,
back, you're like, oh,
yep,
it's game time.
yep.
I mean, turkey is one of the most frustrating. I thought whitetail this year, I don't care. I'll take a bad year of whitetail over like, because those birds will mind mess with you.
Oh
They
yeah,
mess with your mind bad
yeah.
and they know what they're doing. It's crazy.
I know, no
Still
doubt
a
about
thrill though. Makes you want to get out there even more and punch a tag.
exactly. So when you look at all the things that you've done over the years at camp, what's one of your favorite memories?
Honestly, hunting up there, but like more so whenever I like, you mentor so much as a young adult that when you finally have the independence to do it yourself, and it's just like being a part of the talk. So we have this tradition too where after I prepare most of the meals because if it were up to the guys, we'd be eating like lunch meat and cereal and we're just not, and I'm not trying to play like the typical woman cook card, but I'm gonna take it and run with it. I'd rather eat what I'm cooking, and I know they would too. So we'll make dinner, but we always have like a nightcap. And this is very redneck of us, but we'll drink like Evan Williams cherry out of a solo cup with a couple ice cubes, and we will. It's nice to be a part of like. We're giving each other tips. This is where you should go tomorrow. Oh, I saw a scrape here. I saw a huge rub on this tree over past McDonald Draft. Like being a part of that for me was a new sense of like you were accepted by the guys. That's not easy to do. If somebody's listening to you, that's a big deal because for the longest time, realistically, I was pretty ignorant to things. I was learning. Everything is very new to me. So whenever I did feel more comfortable, scouting land and kind of looking for a sign and feeling confident and, now all of a sudden I'm driving through like regular residential neighborhoods and I'm texting my boss. I'm like, do you have a buck in your yard? Because you have a huge rub on a tree in your backyard. I like went to drop something off and she's like, actually, yeah. And I'm like, yeah, let me get a picture of that if you have, if you have any cameras out. But it is nice to finally gain the confidence and just be comfortable in what you're saying, what you're delivering. And it means a lot when they are reciprocating it well too, because like I said, it is tough being a girl in a male dominant sport. I say that all the time. But I'm glad that nobody had mercy on me, and I'm glad that I have so much grit. Like I said, I might be a little too rough for most people, but I would not change a thing. I know my boundaries when I need to be graceful, and when I need to be tough. So realistically, I loved that. Was probably like one of my favorite things. I'm trying to think what else too, because there's a lot. We do a lot of log booking. I
Okay.
love recording in the logbook, and we do a ton of photographs. And the boys always have like wigs and trucker hats and all kinds of shit that, came out of the woodworks. Craziness. I always say it's like it's locker room talk, but tasteful.
Yep.
Nothing that would, I don't have thin skin. I can handle it, but they know their boundaries. They know their boundaries.
That's funny. So what's when you talk about somebody with you cooking, what's one of your go-to meals?
Well, they know because they probably are sick of it, but they do love it. I just only try to make it like once a season. I love venison chili or ground elk chili. I love chili and honey cornbread. I make a ton of that. Last year, a big hit they liked was I took a jambalaya recipe and subbed the chicken with ground venison. If you season it correctly, everything, it was really good because I don't like the same old burger and meatloaf or spaghetti. I try to change it up for them. We've done sloppy joes when I'm in a pinch. More than likely, they're just happy to have a hot meal because trust me, I've seen the way they eat and it's scary. I don't know how they're still alive, but I do what I can. If anybody knows Jennifer Danella, I'm like a super fan of hers, and she just followed me, so I was like totally quivering tonight. But
Yeah.
I love her recipes. She makes really good stuff with venison, duck, pheasant,
Yeah.
everything. It's great.
That's awesome. I asked that too because it's been one of a popular type questions and response from the previous guest, but also that's like what we're doing these next couple of days. I was like, hey, I'm gonna make venison taco soup. I'll bring like the Tostitos little
Yeah.
like scoops and like avocado. I'll bring all that stuff. And my buddy Jim's like, well, I'll order sandwiches for us to have for like lunch, and
Yeah.
maybe we'll do this stuff. And I don't know.
That's good. We
Yeah.
did do country fried elk backstrap last year.
Ooh.
I don't know if I would country fry a backstrap. I'm very classic when it comes to backstrap. I think you just got to sear it in a cast iron skillet and leave it be. You do not want to mess that up too, because I felt like it just didn't taste right.
Yeah.
And I was like pissed because that's like the best cut of the deer. And I'm like
Yeah.
country frying it.
Yeah.
Like, oh, this is not Cracker Barrel, like, geez.
No, that's funny. So when you think about maybe some of the like the community aspect, like you were just saying, like that's the one thing that I'm hearing is like friends and family and that community aspect. What's your hope with like the tradition that stays within that, like for the next however many years?
Yeah. I'm really excited to say my brother has a son. His name's Braden. He is going to be 5. He's very involved and loves big bucks and hunting and everything. So it's kind of nice. He's the 5th generation, which, I don't have any kids. Hopefully someday, you never know. I'm taking it slow. But it's really fun to watch him and know that like my dad will and my brother will do everything, even though things may have changed economically and within the commission, they will still try to do everything the way that I did it, the way my brother and my dad were raised on it, to give him that same experience, because I truly do think that is what creates somebody who has a good healthy passion for hunting without it being all driven by kill, more about just appreciating the harvest and the work that goes into it. So that really excites me. My neighbor Chris at camp, he started out coming to our camp. He's from Harbor Creek in Erie. He's a machine. I love hunting with him, but I hate it because I mean you're putting like 9-10 miles on just for a turkey. But he has 2 little boys. They just bought a camp next to ours, which is a wonderful, beautiful thing because now I get to see those little boys, and they're like through and through little boys. They're turning over rocks, looking for salamanders, worms. They're always outside. It's nice to see that they're not glued to an iPad, and not saying anything about that parenting technique. I would never judge the way someone does things. I just think if you have the opportunity and you have a camp to keep them outside, that is such a wonderful thing to watch. And I definitely hope to do the same thing if I have children. I know I will, but it's nice to see that our traditions still are alive and well in a way. I know that they are compromised a little bit, but we will do everything we can for the people that come to our camp and the children that grow up around us to have the same traditions that we have.
I love that. And you're right. I mean, obviously, myself being an educator, I see it. You know what I mean? And it's pretty cool because, not to get off topic, but like our school's doing a really cool thing where we're limiting cell phones and all that stuff. And
That's great.
as a teacher, I'm like, man, how are we going to do this? And it was funny because they do a really good job of it, the students I'm talking about. And what's funny
Yeah.
is the first couple of days in my health class, which I always start out by saying, listen, like, if you do not participate, I promise you this will be the most boring class ever. Like, I need your feedback. This isn't like, I'm a open discussion type of teacher. I love asking questions. I love
Yeah.
getting your input. And when I don't get that, I said, it's so boring. And this year was like the first time where I really had to like use some classroom management because they're not on their phones. Like, they're actually engaging with each other. They're actually
That's
like
really
doing,
nice to hear.
yeah. So I was like, oh man, like I have to step my game up a little bit. Like,
Well, we're such an instant gratification world now.
yeah,
Like everything's at our fingertips. And I think it's hard because now schools use the phones and the iPads as tools, which
right.
can be good in a way. But at the like, I'm glad that I never had one because now I have to like learn how to publicly speak
Yeah.
and how to, address things. And there's different things. So I think healthy management of technology is good. Using it for tools in some ways, but then like cutting it in certain
Yeah.
ways is great because you got to push them. This is
Yeah.
the future here.
Exactly. What are you looking forward to this year for camp?
I'm really excited. Well, I already started a grocery list, so I'm going to be cooking. I love that kitchen is just, and I know I hate that it's like, because,
Yeah, being a
but you know what?
female.
I own it. That's
Yeah,
me.
exactly.
I love it, but I love the kitchen. I love after it's dark out, we have a full room. Everybody's in the living room watching TV, telling stories. I can just overhear because we have a pretty open room. If you know the setup of my camp, the kitchen and the living room are all open. We have an island or like a kitchen island sort of, and then a big kitchen table. So I like to prepare dinner. Usually somebody stumbles in and tries to help. Usually ends up they get their head bit off. I don't like anybody trying to overstep on my toes. I'm looking forward to cooking in the kitchen. What I'm most really looking forward to is I've created a lot of friends through camp tradition. So Jennifer Guerrero and I have become really close. Her camp's it's off of Meadix Grade Road, and mine's off of Winslow Hill. So we're realistically 15 minutes apart. We already are texting each other like two little girls, like, oh
Yeah.
my God. She's going to the one fire hall gun bash Friday night. She's really like, I really think I might want to go because I just love everything about being up there. And if I can support and donate and, be around everybody, I like being a part of the whole experience of camp. We have a lot of friends that are going to be in Brockway that I invited. I always say, if you can come after 6:30 when we're already like,
Yep.
trying to get settled for the night, it's great to have company. And then we're always in bed by usually, well, I'm in bed by 10:30. Everybody else is on their own. I'll sleep through anything. But it's just nice to be a part of everything. I have Jennifer to look forward to seeing and her family. I've met a lot of wonderful people just with getting more involved in the hunting community. I think this is such a special sport and such a special community. Really, honestly, I'm very surprised and taken back by how welcoming and how kind and generous everyone's been. Because like I always say, being a girl in a male dominant sport, I think the girls are starting to, get up there, and I'm really happy and proud of that. And it just makes me feel super welcomed and happy. It's great.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. And
Yeah.
I think with the weather, it's gonna be so cold for that opening for our
Ugh.
opening the couple days, which
I like to
you,
say I'm a fair weather hunter, but I don't like, I'm pulling the buddy heater out if I have the
yeah.
opportunity.
Well, we were laughing because I was saying, I was like, man, it's gonna be cold. And when I was talking to Jim and we were just finalizing who's bringing what as far as like the
Yes.
food goes, I was like, dude, don't forget, man, it gets dark at like 5. So like there's a
Yes.
long time that we could be munching and doing some, just getting fat and all that
I'm
type
like
of stuff.
4:45. Yep, it looks like it's time to, pack
Yep.
everything out. My dad's the type there where he's like, "You sit your ass there till 7 o'clock and you don't move." I'm like, "I can't see in front of me." He's like,
Yeah.
7 o'clock.
It's so funny how our dads
Old
are like that.
timers.
'Cause
Yeah.
I remember being, 12, 13, and I mean, I got my license and he was like, all right, I'll come to you later. I'm like, okay, like, so he dropped me off, and then he may or he may not have come. So I'm like sitting there, like, is he coming? Is he not coming? Like, am I gonna have to get out of here before it gets
My
dark?
gosh,
And
we have the Motorola walkie-talkies because in Ohio we don't have service, so I keep mine on real low. I think he shuts his off because I'm like, "Are you coming up? Like you
yeah,
said you want me to come up, or you wanted to come up and meet me," and he no response. So finally, the one day I got out, just a couple weeks ago before I tagged out, and he's like, "What the hell are you doing? I told you I was gonna come get you." I'm like, "It's 7 o'clock." I'm like, I can't see in front of me. That's my sign. This isn't safe. I'm not taking a shot. I'll get down. He's like, I said 7. You listen next time. I'm like, does not matter how old you are, guys. They will always scold you and parent you, no matter how
yeah,
old you are. But
no.
I love him. That's how he is. That's why we're kind of like a funny duo, him and I.
No, that's awesome, Becca. No, I wish you the best of luck, and
Thank
have the
you.
time and of your life this weekend, and whenever
You
else you
too.
get up, I appreciate it. So yeah, I listen, you keep doing what you're doing, and,
Thank you.
and enjoy it. You know what I mean? I think that's the one thing as an outsider that, like I told you earlier, that's the one thing that you could really see is how much you really do enjoy it. And, it's awesome that you started doing it at a very young age. So you could tell.
Yeah, I have to say too, like it's such a special place, and I always want to like I know I joke and say we have an open door policy, but really, truly, like if you have the opportunity to hunt in a hunting camp, or I know you said bring your kids and your wife, come on up, like anybody's welcome. We have it to have people use it and make those memories in it. It started really like during the Great Depression. My great grandpa worked until he was in 6th grade, went into the coal mine, then he worked on the railroad for 37 years. So it was more of a camp to survive off of that turned into a camp. I mean, there's just so much heritage. I do think hunting is built on tradition and camaraderie. I think we have to keep the true core of why we love the sport so much at hand. And that's why I'm such an advocate for hunting camp. So I really appreciate you asking me to be on here tonight. It was such an honor. And I'm so excited to finally be on the other side of the screen. I'm used to watching you on TV. So this is really special for me.
Welcome anytime, Becca. So I
Thank you.
I appreciate it. And where can
Happy
people
Thanksgiving.
happy Thanksgiving to you as well. Where can
Thank you.
people check you out and see, your adventures and everything that you got going
Yeah,
on?
I'm very open on Instagram and Facebook. Rebecca Latini on Facebook, and then it's Becca Latini with an extra I at the end on Instagram. I'm always, any questions or anybody looking to get involved. I always like to hear from other female hunters too. I think it's really great to have a strong community with them, but always a lot of adventures, especially up in Elk County. So, and a lot of Fred content. So, if you know anything about my dad, you'll love him. You'll love to watch him. He's a character. So, definitely follow along.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Becca. And thanks
Thank
again,
you.
everybody, for tuning in. We'll see you next week. Antler Up. Awesome.